This is the video where all the blackmail comes.
Oh no. And
Don't
I already
please.
have I've already said so many weird things on the internet. Like there's already plenty of blackmail material out there.
Yeah, oh gosh. One day there'll be a supercut and it's just actually this video in its entirety. Hi, Yella.
Hey, Zax.
We are doing something fun today. Well, is fun the word?
Uh, I mean, we went into it with the idea of this'll be fun, and then we got real for a moment.
Yeah, so this is What Would You Do? A show that runs on ABC, and we mostly watch YouTube. And for a while, I think I've been just finding clips and then showing to you and be like, watch this troublesome moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
you're like, that was unpleasant. And I'm like, you're welcome.
Why you do these things to me, Zax?
I have a gift.
That or you're a
So
huge sadist.
So this is a one thing that they like to do on What Would You Do, which it's basically they get actors to play the scenario and then people are trying to enjoy their day and then they get sucked into these people's issues.
Right. They do a scenario in like a public place in the hopes of like eliciting a reaction from the people around.
Yeah, it's basically like Joey Salads with if he got a real budget, I think. Um, like those sorts of like social experiment deals.
Which but not pranks in this case. Not that
Yeah,
kind of social experiment.
yeah. Um,
This is the kind that's like an actual social experiment, I guess.
yeah, I think so. So this is a one thing they like to do where they'll one moment they'll stage the experiment or whatever they want to call it, um, one way, and then they'll switch it out. Like how we saw how it went this way, but how would it go if we switched the gender or races? And in this case, we're going to be races. Um, the scenario is hairdresser berates interracial couple.
Yeah, even although it is stated like that, most of it in practice comes down to hairdresser is really racist against a person.
Yeah, yeah, that is more
It's
accurate.
less that they're like I think it's kind of a divide and conquer kind of deal. Like I feel like that's what people would also do is they wouldn't go after both people in the couple because then you have you might be fighting a united front.
Yeah,
But if you're just trying to, if you only attack the one and the other one doesn't stand up, which in this case they kind of can't because they're reliant on the fact that the people around react. Which in one of the
yeah,
cases, and we'll talk about, which is the second case, we'll talk about that when we get to that. It it kind of we kind of had a moment of wait a second.
yeah. Like
Why aren't
the
you like at least do something?
yeah,
Like sell that is, your significant other. Anyway,
yeah,
we'll get to that like I said.
yeah. But in the first scenario they run, it opens up real heavy-handed, where they talk about how Memphis has this huge scar, the whole entirety of Memphis,
Yeah,
because
like
it's
something like Memphis is like a dark history regarding civil rights.
yeah, and
That's
it's
that's how
because
they word it, and it's kind of like ooh,
it's
you're
real
going with the heavy
heavy-handed.
punches right here.
Because like others they say like because Memphis is where Martin Luther King,
Was
um,
assassinated.
yeah, which is true, but and regardless of other history, we can't blame Memphis for a murder. We can blame the murderer for the murder.
Yeah,
So,
it feels kind of weird to say that's all this one city. Like I don't know, feels
Yeah,
kind of weird.
because it's not even so much just like that. Like lots of things happen. They specifically just say like this one thing happened, which was just like,
Which is a significant thing, but still.
yeah, it was just, yeah.
Anyway.
So we'll continue. So you're already like they have the heavy music playing. They have like flashing different headlines and things playing.
They're talking about how like it was only it was 50 years ago that big racism problem. How is that today? Which this was recorded in like 2014, so not great. I mean, still not great. Still far from
Yeah.
great, but issues still exist. Doesn't matter that was only 50 years on the grand scheme of things is a very short time, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially for something like social progress and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I think you were at best like people can be continuing their lives in 50 years.
Yeah, like people live longer than 50 years generally.
So like, yeah. Um so this scenario, it is a white hairdresser and she is, doing someone else's hair and this attractive white man enters the room. I feel really weird saying like white this, black that so much,
I
but like
get it.
it's
but it's important for the scenario.
Yeah, it is just to paint the scene. So this is a white hairdresser. She sees an attractive white man, and she sort of flirts with him a bit like, ooh, like you're, like I'm professional, but not really because I'm trying to get with you right now.
I mean, I just, it's just, I just, make a bit personal, just a bit, so we can be like, hey, you want to spend money here? I don't know.
I get you
like,
though.
I feel like that's kind of what they're going for.
Yeah.
Maybe she's just wildly unprofessional. Who knows? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's not her biggest character flaw.
True, we'll get to that right now because his black girlfriend enters the room, Rachel, and she's like
I like that we only remembered Rachel's name.
Yeah.
Because I forget what the other two are called.
Yeah, just hairdresser and boyfriend of Rachel. Also in both because Rachel, because
Rachel is in both scenarios.
Because like we said, it's gonna reverse it. So right now she's the girlfriend, next one she's going to be the hairdresser. So,
Spoilers.
Yeah, sorry. But anyway, she comes in, they give each other a little smooch, and then does like freeze on the hairdresser's face, like, what?
What? How dare you?
How could this be?
And then the opening line that we both were just shocked and needed a moment, because the hairdresser says the honestly kind of amazing, like I feel like the writers for this were on point, like incredibly on point, but like you said, so black girlfriend comes in, gives her boyfriend a kiss, and then the racist hairdresser is like, oh, is that your girlfriend? I thought she was your cleaning lady.
And I was like, I had such an audible reaction. I can't even recreate it because now I know it's what
gasped.
Would You Do.
Like you legitimately just gasped.
And it was so weird to have such like a real reaction because like it's What Would You Do? I'm used to it being like we're sensationalizing things, like we have to hype it up to like get other people to notice us and all that. But it was just like, oof, she came ready with that racism. And throughout it, in the first, pretty much everyone is just like, I'm so sorry, Rachel. Like, ignore this racist. You're lovely. You're in a real beautiful relationship.
Like, don't let this ignorant, dumb person, like, ruin your day. Like she's just stupid and you can ignore whatever she says. She's unimportant.
Yeah, and for the most part, we notice like that they kind of basically just do that, and then they're basically done with Rachel, and they kind of just move on to
they kind of
Uh,
get into I mean, in part it's because then they have the racist hairdresser like attack the person who stood up for Rachel,
yeah,
and so it
it's
becomes more a fight between the between the hairdresser and whoever decided to react, which I guess is good in that it takes all of the negative attention away from Rachel herself,
yeah,
which I guess if the in a real situation would be good, like move the aggression away from the victim, kind of idea, I think, which I think is good, like in general. But anyway,
yeah,
and so then it kind of moves on to this. It becomes this verbal spar between. Well, I mean, spar would imply a friendly fight. This is not friendly.
yeah.
But it becomes like a verbal lashing between like the racist hairdresser and the person reacting. And
E-
one of the things that they have hairdressers say, which I think is really again well written, well done, is they have her be like, I'm just trying to make it more comfortable for everybody.
yeah,
Which, cuz the whole idea there is like for a racist person, just being reminded that people of other races, usually specifically black people, that they exist
mm-hmm.
is enough to make them uncomfortable. And they just play on that so well, I feel. Like I'm just trying to make it more comfortable for everybody. And then great thing was that one of the customers who was there who reacted was like, "Well, you're doing a bad job
Yeah.
because that's
I
you
think
are
that
making it
was
uncomfortable by being incredibly racist, just like right there in front of all of us."
yeah, I definitely that was the perfect response. The other perfect response that we had, that she was my favorite, I think.
Mm,
So most people just kind of like systematically break down like you're a racist, here's why you're bad. But this woman, she's sitting getting her hair done. She's like, "Oh, so you have a problem with me because I'm Latina?" And
mm.
then she's like, again on point with the racism. She's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"No, your kind's okay."
Your kind is fine, and we were just like, "Oh my god!"
I was like, oh no. And then, but this is where it gets perfect because she says in the most sarcastic voice I think anyone could manage in this situation, she's like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah, which is the
Like,
perfect
I'm
response.
glad,
Like
oh,
that
I
was
get to
so good.
stay. Thank you so much. You're so kind.
You're so kind and magnanimous. Like that was so good. I love that. I love that sarcasm that you could
It
just hear
was,
dripping from her voice. Like, oh, thank you. Oh,
I,
how nice.
I was not, this woman, I can't imagine how it would feel to play any of these characters, but especially to be the racist hairdresser. That's
Mm.
so like,
Yeah, like because that's also a thing. Like they kind of make it very short, and I'm glad that they don't focus too much on it, like in the clip on like in the video.
yeah.
But they do make a quick note of how uncomfortable. Also, though, I feel like one, but yeah, I'll make this point first. I'll make this point. I'm jumbling things around in my head a bit. Let me just one point at a
Mm-hmm.
time. Um, I like that they do they do for for a quick sentence make it clear that playing the racist is also not a great feeling
Yeah.
because it's fair to assume that the person who plays this role is not like doesn't actually feel or believe any of the horrible things she says.
Yeah.
Like
Which, and so I do think it's good that we took a minute to say that because it is worth noting that I don't actually think that like anyone involved in the making of What Would You Do is racist.
right, exactly. Because one thing I wish they had done, even if for a similarly short bit, like just a sentence,
Mm-hmm.
that they could have done that they didn't, that I wish they had done, was also maybe mention for a moment how uncomfortable it probably is for Rachel. to, even though she knows that this is her colleague and her colleague's not about this and doesn't mean any of this, she is still getting racism flung at her head. Probably, presumably, maybe, who knows? Probably something she has actually heard thrown at her, especially because from another clip we learned that, I don't know if that was true at the time of this clip, but in the other clip we learned that Rachel is actually herself in an interracial relationship.
Yeah.
So it's not wholly inconceivable that she has maybe had to deal with that in real life
Yeah.
outside of it being acted. And I kind of wish they had made at least quick note of how uncomfortable it is for her probably to have to hear this even though she knows it's not meant.
You're right. Yeah, cuz even in the it is interesting too though like how little attention the girlfriend in both scenarios really gets.
Yeah,
Like
like Rachel, I mean, at the same time, I'm glad, like I said earlier, I'm glad that in a way the customers that are around that are reacting kind of like pull attention away from Rachel so that Rachel can either more easily leave without anybody noticing, like kind of escape the situation, or at least be there without being just harassed to her face, I guess. Like I don't know.
yeah.
Like make kind of makes I don't know.
Oh no, I was gonna say no. I agree with you. I think it is good that they do like try to like take draw away from because like this woman, this hairdresser is not stopping. There's no end in sight for her. So we need to like I'm going to engage her because I can't take any more of her berating this poor woman anymore.
Right.
So I think that is good. It's just
Cuz the thing also is I mean, of course they don't do it because they in part because they have to, they require for the show itself, like that's the whole premise that they get a person who is not one of the actors like react and lash back, like clap back basically at this racist hairdresser. Um, but at the same time, another reason that they can't really have Rachel like stand up for herself is because then you have this thing where you can kind of create this narrative of, because and this is also pointed out then by the hairdresser, is that Rachel is the only black woman inside that salon.
right.
Like the rest are mostly white people, and then there was this one Latina lady. Um, but the thing is then also like if Rachel herself were to like stand up for herself and get upset and get angry maybe, then there is the risk of, especially in the head of a racist, that would be like, oh, here goes one of them black women getting hysterical again.
Yeah, I think that is something like yeah. I it's so weird. There's so many different judgments that people perpetuate. I guess
Yeah, exactly.
because like
Which
yeah, and like what the reality is, this is a woman not letting someone talk down to her, but the outside is just
yeah.
oh, what's she mad about kind of thing or something else unhelpful.
Yeah, though
um,
no, though it is then of course good to see that there are people who are willing to stand up for, for one of their fellow people, one of their fellow human
yeah.
beings, to just be like, "Hey, to Rachel, hey, don't let this ignorant lady like ruin your day cuz she doesn't know what she's on about." And then
Yeah.
tell the hairdresser off like, "Hey, like nobody here agrees with what you're saying. You're
Mm-hmm.
making it uncomfortable here for everybody, especially for her.
Mm-hmm.
So how about you just shut up?"
Yeah. Then one thing I'd like to talk about now, because it doesn't really come up too much in the second video,
Hmm.
but after we mentioned the Latino woman who, after it was happening, she was visibly shaking, and
Yeah, like
one
she
thing
was
that
she was genuinely like very upset. Like it was kind of
yeah,
heartbreaking to see because being Latina, she has probably had to deal with racism aimed at her.
yeah, And I was just thinking about it too, like she seemed like a pretty soft spoken woman, and like I'm pretty shy. So if I had like a situation like that, it would take like everything to speak up in
Mm.
the moment. So I was just like coming at it from that. But like she's just like all the adrenaline. That's like she just like lifted a car off somebody, pretty much the equivalent to me.
Yeah.
And so she's still coming down from like this. Probably one of the most intense interactions I think a person could really have. You're
Mm.
defending somebody else who's very combative because this person just walked in and they're already like this. So confronting that person is a hard thing to do in and of itself.
Yeah.
Um, but
True.
then so she's coming, but then she's coming down from that, and John Quinones, he likes to come out and talk to people like, so you just did a thing. Why did you do that? Tell me for the cameras, please.
Right. Yeah. Just
And
kind of, just that's what he does. Johnny Boy shows up and he's like, "Hey, you did this. Why'd you do that? What was your thoughts? Like, what? Get a bit of a what went through your
interview.
head."
It's always so interesting too because sometimes he has to like guide the answers,
Yeah.
which is fair because they're not interviewed all the time, and then other times like it's these two videos didn't really get a lot of responses. It seems like most people just didn't really get too involved. I think because a lot of times they'll generate like a lot of different people and they'll even show like montages sometimes, but they didn't do that too much in these clips. So I guess they didn't get too many people involved. But when they do get a lot of people, the answers can just be kind of generic after a while, where it's just like, you defended this woman. I don't like racism. She was being bad. I
And
didn't like that and needed to say something.
right.
Which is pretty much all there is to say about it. The only
Mm.
time it's really different is if they're like bringing in their own personal experiences.
Right.
Um,
Like if they like in this situation, for example, it would be like, oh, hey, I've been victim of racism or whatever, or I see this all the time, or I have to hear
yeah,
about this all the time because I don't know, like I know some
like
people who are racist, maybe like
yeah,
stuff like that.
different, yeah, different things like that. Um, so he comes out and he's talking with her, and I just thought this would be a good time to talk about. You have your own personal issues with Johnny Boy doing this to people.
Yeah, like one thing that bugs me about the whole reveal thing is in a lot of cases it's like he shows up and people pretty much always recognize him, or if they don't, they probably edit it in such a way that he doesn't have to explain, or that they cut out probably that he explains who he is and what's going on, because
Yeah,
probably not everybody knows who John
yeah,
is. But the thing that bugs me is that in a lot of cases, with the way it's shot and edited, it's always like he shows up, people are like, "Oh, that's him," and suddenly everything is hunky dory, everything is okay, and it's like, okay, but the thing that that made you be like, I have to get involved here, is a thing that happens in the world. And more cases than not, it's not because John here wants to see how people react to situations. It's because it's really happening. And a thing that then and I don't know, that just kind of bothers me, is that it's always like, oh, he shows up, oh, everything is fine now.
yeah. And like you said, because they cut out that part, like she was just saying, like, she was visibly shaking, and then John walks out, and then she's just fine. Like, yeah, I didn't
Big
like that.
smile. Yeah, like probably in reality there was probably a lot of time at least a few minutes in between there where she had to actually calm down.
Yeah,
And
because
and credit where it's due, of course. At least in this one, they very clearly do have a bit of a talk about how it's still, how racism is still very real and it
Yeah.
happens and exists.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes deep sometimes, but there are also just, and this is just a general criticism I have of What Would You Do, where it's like
Yeah.
occasionally they don't do that, and then I'm just sitting there like, okay, we're just gonna ignore the underlying issue that caused you to enact this specific scenario in the first place. Like, can we maybe talk about that for a bit? Because that's important.
Yeah.
That's a thing that's happened. That's a social issue that needs addressing. Needs
Yeah.
continued addressing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I agree. There's not a lot said. You kind of said it all. Okay. So can you think of any bigger highlights from that first clip?
No, I think that's about it. Yeah, I think we can move on to second clip. Do the same, but in reverse.
Yes, we're leaving Memphis and we're going to Harlem. That felt weird to say, even though that's just what happened. but anyway, so now it's now a black racist hairdresser and a white girlfriend with a black boyfriend.
Yeah.
And it starts off the same. She's flirting with him, and his girlfriend comes.
Actually, before, sorry, just popped into my brain something.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about the previous clip, and that we kind of talked about while we were watching it, was that they can't have the boyfriend stand up for his girlfriend either. Because, again, the whole program thrives on, reaction of an outsider. One thing they do have happen is during the first scenario, they have Rachel be like, I can't take this anymore, and leave. And then they have the boyfriend go after her. Be like, oh no, I gotta go, and he also says, I think he also in a one sentence does tell the racist hairdresser off.
Yeah.
And then, goes after his girlfriend to comfort her, because that was not a great situation, and I would imagine that she would, would be up for some comfort from her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to point that out real quick, because then we have the second scenario.
Yeah, and I think it's good that you brought that up now, because in both scenarios, before we even watched the first one, before we even got to that beautiful opening racist line about her being the cleaning lady, I was like, I'm really curious to see what they do with the boyfriend, because in real life, we might need to break up.
Yeah, if your boyfriend or girlfriend doesn't stand up for you when you're being racist when you're being the victim of racism, then it's like, can you maybe help?
Yeah, we need to reevaluate some things, because what was that?
Yeah, I feel like that is something probably maybe not always, but I'm assuming that probably when you're and when you're entering an interracial relationship, you're probably going to be aware of the fact that there will be people who will disapprove of your relationship, or who will disapprove of your significant other, because that's the world we live in, and it sucks. But at the same time, it feels like that also means that you probably have an idea of whether or not your boyfriend or girlfriend will stand up for you if you're being attacked.
Yeah, no, definitely. You need to reevaluate some things about these people.
Yeah, and at least here they they do have some of it. He never gets outspoken involved, but at least in that one instance they have him go after her. I'm not gonna be a patron of this here salon if they're just letting one of their employees harass my girlfriend like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
again, like I said, I understand why they don't because that's the whole premise of the show. But still, it feels like in a real life scenario, there would be
yeah,
more standing up
one
for your girlfriend.
yeah, definitely. Like we said, like in real life, if this like, or just from the reaction, it's weird that nobody calls the boyfriend out really at
Yeah,
all.
like nobody's like, hey, you're just gonna let her talk about your girlfriend like that? Like I wouldn't. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, and yeah,
Like
so
that's
it's
not okay.
yeah, that's definitely a weird thing about this whole pretty much all these scenarios, just like how little they can really like intervene unless the producers tell them they can.
Hmm.
So yeah. But anyway, so this starts off like the other one. She's flirting with a guy, and then his
Rachel is the
girlfriend comes
hairdresser
in.
this time.
Yes. Oh, and it is still Rachel. Um and whoever she is comes in, and they're like, "Hey," and he's, they're talking to each other, and the hairdresser does the same double take, like, "What?" But now they've added a
What?
new layer of the racism, because the writers, and I don't know how, like, if this is in good taste or bad taste. I don't know what my verdict on this is, but the writers really did a lot of like digging and researching into finding out like all the layers that go into the scenario. So because it is a black woman, it's not where with the white hairdresser, her thing was like, well, basically you're gonna have gross mixed babies and you're ruining our world.
You're ruining our pure white world.
Yeah, that was kind of her stance, but they
I
add
felt gross saying it even like that.
yeah. But in this one, she does bring up interracial children, and she does say you're ruining the black family, but then there's this other layer. First she says you're dating a white girl, what, you couldn't find a strong black woman? And then which is an argument I have heard. Then
Ugh.
when the boyfriend is like, she's my girlfriend, like that's, we're together, she says, oh no, then he doesn't, that's the end of his interact. He just says like, she is my girlfriend, she is white and my girlfriend. But when other people start getting involved, her other thing that she says is, why are you standing up for her? She's white,
Yeah,
they don't stand up
yeah.
for
Why are you
us.
standing up for a
um
white woman? Like, ew.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, the first reaction we see, this woman, like, she's with her children, there are other people waiting with their children to get their hair done. She is having none of this hairdresser's mess. She tells her, like, you're being ignorant. And she's like, you're gonna stand up for a white woman? And then she says, I don't care if she's purple. I'm standing up for a woman, point blank. And I was like, that's really good. Like, she didn't let this girl get a word in. She just said what she had to say. And she was also trying to comfort the girlfriend. She did it twice before she finally lays into the hairdresser, because she's like,
Yeah.
ignore her.
She's just ignorant. Kind of like,
Uh,
kind of how some people also like comforted Rachel, like in the salon.
yeah. I do think,
Like,
yeah, it was an interesting layer that she added, which I like was it was still the same spirit of the other one, but it was interesting that she specifically said like, I'm not bothered by you, they're not bothered by you, nobody is bothered by you but her.
right.
It was just an interesting thing to make sure she like to like go
No.
the extra
Yeah.
mile. It's
To,
what.
yeah, make her aware of, hey, nobody is bothered by you. The only person here who has a problem with you is that person who is making her problem very vocal.
Yeah.
And
So
I do, and like you said, I do like that she initially comforts the girlfriend until she just kind of can't take it anymore, that this woman is still like talking crap, and is then
yeah,
like, hey, listen up. Like, let me tell you about how dumb you are.
yeah. And then then John Quinones comes out, and she's like, "Oh, I knew it." But this is one part that you thought was good. I thought was cute. There's a little boy next to her, and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
he has this like, he has like cutest smile, but he also, his eyes are kind of wide, like Who is this guy? Why do we
Yeah, he just.
care? What's
I
happening?
mean, I mean, he's just a kid. Like he has no idea what's going on. He just has this bewildered look on his face. Like everybody's really excited about this guy, and I don't know who that is.
Like, there are cameras here? Like, there's stuff going on. Something big is happening. I just could not tell you what. Do not
Yeah.
ask me. I do not know.
Do not ask me. I am only a child.
Yeah. But then the next scenario, this is something else that happens in What Would You Do a lot. You know, there are the people who are outspoken, but then there are the people who do nothing and they need to be shamed for it. Um,
Which
I disagree.
not a great look.
Because that's really, and I don't think there is any other way to take that. Because, so in this scenario, they focus on two women. One woman's getting her hair done, another woman's waiting to get her hair done, and they both look visibly. They keep looking at the hairdresser, looking at the girl. They do notice what happened. The editing makes it very clear, like they saw what went on and they did
They
nothing.
saw it, and they also look very uncomfortable with what
Yeah.
is happening.
And then John Quinones comes out and he's like, so why didn't you say anything? And then their answer was, it didn't feel like my place to say anything. And then John Quinones to the girl getting her hair done, he's like, well, why didn't you, I don't know, speak up? And then she's like, and then he says, like, he doubles down. Well, she was saying that, like, she wouldn't stand up for us. She's making it include all of you. And then she was like, oh, well,
Right,
I wasn't.
because that is a thing they have Rachel do is they have Rachel be like, "Hey, I'm just saying what we're all thinking."
Yeah. And then the woman getting her hair, she just says, I wasn't thinking
Was
anything about what she was
Yeah,
thinking.
I wasn't thinking what she was. Yeah,
Yeah, at
yeah,
all. And her face at this point, like at first, it might be like still uncomfortable from the everything that happened, but I kind of took it more as like, you are painting me in an awful light, sir. Please
yeah.
stop.
Like what are you like? You're making me out to be some kind of monster here.
Yeah, it was a little
Like
interesting that they signed the waiver or whatever, because most of the time the people, not all the time, I guess it is kind of a 50-50 split, but a lot of times the person who doesn't do anything, who just stood for social injustice or whatever, um they blur their faces usually. So I thought it was interesting that theirs wasn't blurred.
yeah, that they were willing to.
Yeah.
At the same time, like because you're already being shamed at that moment, kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the way John then asks the questions, like usually kind of aggressively, like which
Yeah, he was a little bit
not
like,
not
why
not a
did, like, it's your duty.
yeah, like which that's a point against you, John. I'm sorry. Um, like I already don't know you, so I'm not gonna talk about your character, but that doesn't paint you in a good light in my eyes.
Yeah.
Anyway, not that he would care. He doesn't know who I am. I'm not even from his. I'm not even American. What? Why would he care? Like I'm not even part of his demographic. Anyway, uh, anyway, like point I'm getting at, trying to get at while speaking's hard. Is that like if you're already like being shamed, like on one hand, I kind of get like then not wanting to also be recognizable on the camera, like have people, because people might see that and be like, "Wow, you were being awful." In which case, those are not good friends. Find new ones.
Yeah.
Um, but like at the same time, getting your face blurred, I feel that some people might then also feel, feels like admitting defeat.
Hmm.
Like, oh yeah, I was in the wrong. Better not have that show up. I better not be recognizable, I guess. So I can kind of see both ways why people would or would not sign the waiver and have their face recognizable. Like
Yeah.
kind of that idea. Like I would probably I would probably not I, I don't know if I would have my face be recognizable. Like, first off, it would, the situation. I don't know. Like this, it would already depend on the scenario whether or not I would get involved in the first place. Of course,
Yeah.
because some things like the racism thing, I would feel like this racism thing. Like if I was in the first salon, I would feel more inclined to speak up than in some other like what would you do
Yeah,
scenarios.
because like they only have two modes where it's either like people are being bigoted in some way, or here's a family having a really, really personal thing that you should not be a part of in any way, and kind of be mad at the family for bringing you into this at all.
Yeah, like why are you having this really important conversation in the middle of a restaurant? Like
Yeah.
have that at home, please.
Uh, yeah.
But we're both thinking of a very specific scenario.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and I don't know if I would want my face recognizable either way. Also because I'm not the most brave person in terms of like being on camera in the first place. Like I'm also a bit camera shy, so in that case I might also be like I don't want to be recognizable. But at the same time, like if he were to like shame me for not doing anything, well for one I would say like, "Hey, what why are you painting me like this?"
Yeah.
For one. And like I don't know, like I don't know what I would do. Like that's the tough thing of honestly of the show is like it's very hard to actually know what you would do with like these situations. Like especially if you don't think of just the specific scenario, but then also think about the fact that this is a television program.
Yeah.
How would you act once you found out? Like once John shows up, how would you then react?
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of thing that I'm then thinking of.
Yeah, no, that's pretty tough. I don't know what I would think in that at all.
I'm also taking us way off track.
Yeah. Oof, okay. This is something, this is why we ultimately decided to do What Would You Do in the first place, though, because when we were talking about it, we were like, what should we do? Like, we haven't done anything in a while since Shira. And I was like, maybe what would you do? But even as I suggested it, I was kind of like, I don't really know. Like, I feel like everything's been said. But then when we got to talking, I was like, oh, okay, I see now. We clearly have many opinions on what would you do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We clearly still care.
yeah. So that's a burden we have to bear, I guess. But okay, so back to the scenario. One man speaks up, but he waits till after the white woman is so offended that she gets so emotional she has to get up and leave. And
Yeah,
then
like she's just not feeling comfortable being there anymore, so yeah, she just takes off.
and
The
this is
important thing
oh
that
yeah.
we then noticed, or yeah, that we then noticed was in the other scenario when girlfriend left, boyfriend went after.
Yeah, boyfriend always follows in that one.
In this scenario, they didn't show that, so presumably it didn't happen. And that
Yeah.
guy just kind of kept sitting there getting his hair done while this hairdresser is still talking crap about his girlfriend right next to him.
Yeah, that's a thing too. Like it's that like, we already did talk about the boyfriend, but one final thing, it's really unrealistic, I think, that the boyfriend in both scenarios doesn't say anything. Because, it's not even just a romantic connection, like if you and I were in some place together and someone said something mean to you or vice versa, I think we would stand up for each other.
Yeah.
In that moment, like at the very
Like-
least, just like, hey, that's my friend. Don't talk to them like that. I don't want you to do that. I don't like that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just normal.
That's just a thing that you do for people you care about.
Yeah. So at the very least, and like again, like I said, I get it, but at least we see the boyfriend leave. But this guy, he doesn't say anything. Nobody, and again, there are not that many reactions in this one, so not many people reacted to her at all. But then through all this, you see the boyfriend not doing anything either, which might make it be like, if he's not even going to do anything, I don't know if I'm going to, kind of thing.
Right, because that might also like color your reaction. Be like, I mean, he's not even standing up. Like again, and then then you would maybe expect people to be like, hey, why aren't you standing up for your girlfriend? Like she's
Yeah.
being attacked here by this person, and you're not even gonna say anything about that?
Yeah. So they have some work to do in their relationship when they leave in this imaginary scenario. But this man, he sees it and he almost jumped out of his seat when he watched her leave.
Yeah,
Um
like he had this reaction of human being in distress, gotta help
yeah.
maybe.
So
And
I
then he's probably like, but not really my place to comfort her. Like
cuz
that's not my girlfriend.
yeah, like on one hand, especially because she's like he's all the way at the back of the shop. She already made her way out. He watched her leave. It wouldn't be a bad look. It's not like he wants to comfort her, but ultimately, if he wants to have a chance to talk to her, he's going to need to run, and that's
Yeah, like
kind of
she's
weird.
already she's already outside. Maybe she's already walked away like down the street or whatever. Like
So this big, and he's tall. This big man just running after you.
yeah, that would probably be a bit like, like why are you following me? Who are you?
Like, I was in the shop. I just wanted to make sure you're doing okay.
Okay, okay, thanks. Like,
Where do
yeah.
we go from here? So I feel like the look on his face as he sat back in his seat, to me, I feel like that whole thing played out in his head. He was like, I'm gonna sit back down.
Yeah, right, exactly. He was like, that would probably be hella awkward for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I You know what? But there's something I can do.
Yeah. So then he tells the hairdresser, like, that was real ignorant. That girl did nothing to you. That was rude. You shouldn't have done that. And she just keeps doubling down, like, in the weird, like, it takes the weirdest trajectory, but it's very true to how racists argue that it's okay for them to be racist, basically.
Mm.
Where she immediately is like, well, would you date a white girl? What?
Yeah.
Either
Which is
way.
which regardless of the whole situation or the race of the people involved, when you get that question thrown at you, like most people, I mean, I'm saying this as somebody who has no interest in a relationship whatsoever, being asexual, aromantic. Like, I'm assuming that most people, when they think of like their potential future relationship, don't necessarily imagine somebody of a specific race. Like, I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, of course, but like I imagine like most people would maybe more like think about the feelings they would have for that person. And then of
Yeah.
course there would be some, like, depending on like their sexuality or whatever, they might have like some idea of what gender that person would be or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think, unless it's of course one of those weird people who like because you brought that up, like people who like fetishize like specific like
Yeah. So, and
races and
like that's,
stuff.
which is a whole other thing that like neither of these what would you do's get into. But again, I felt like it was worth noting, like technically, like that does happen
That exists, yeah.
in the world. But
But yeah, if you but regardless, like, and I think he, it takes him a second. He needs to, you know, process that question for a second because it's a stupid question. Let's be real.
yeah,
And he needs to process that for a second, and he gives what in my eyes is the only like good answer. I think like the probably the best answer, despite how awkward it might seem,
hmm.
is maybe.
What? Yeah,
Like who knows, like if like he's like if I like basically the idea of if I meet a white girl that I have a good chemistry with, then Why not?
Yeah, like I suppose if it all worked out, maybe we can. But like it's such a weird question because also even if he was like, "No, that's not my preference."
That
Still that's a
still wouldn't.
person. Regardless of his interest in or lack of interest, he could not want a woman of any kind. There's so many things when you just throw that question out. She's making a lot of
Yeah,
assumptions
would you?
here.
Yeah, would you date a white girl? Already assuming he's straight, which who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
Might not be.
But then it's like,
In which case, it's not
regardless
so
of.
much. In which case, it's not so much a I wouldn't date her because she's white, but more I wouldn't date her because she's a woman.
Oh, yeah, because she's a her. But.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm not interested in.
But
Like, who
like
knows?
it's just it's a dumb argument because by that logic like we only stand up for people we want to be in romantic relationships with.
Yeah, like what? Huh? What kind of nonsense is that?
So like what about like
What about women
parents who stand
standing?
up for their kids?
Yeah, or what about just honestly, like you can make that about so many situations. Like does that mean that a straight woman wouldn't stand up for another woman getting harassed? Like, no, get out of here. Like, what are you doing? What are you
This
saying?
is
What are you
such a
thinking?
she was
It's
just so clearly because he was so like just very clear like you're ignorant, that was messed up, you should be ashamed of yourself. She
yeah,
just went into this defensive mode of like, well, you agree with me, right? Like, come on, like get back on this racist train with me.
right, yeah. And I do like, I mean, ultimately there's only so much you can do, and there's only so much you can do to try to convince somebody of anything.
Yeah.
And that really shows because that guy after that is just kind of like just holds his hand up like stop talking to me, like he's just kind of disengaging, like I'm not interested in any more conversation with you,
Yeah.
like I don't want this.
Yeah. Then when and like he handled it well. John Quiñones talks to him and like that was about as productive as the rest of them. Like the reveal is kind of unnecessary. Like I get that you have to do the reveal, but it's just they're
It doesn't.
so like I get that they need to know that this was fake so that they can sign the
Yeah,
paperwork.
right. Yeah, no, that's just that's just bureaucracy in a
Yeah.
way. That's just administration.
But I feel like we really almost don't need to see it unless they, in the cases where they have like a really personal experience, or sometimes they'll be like, "Is there
Or
anything
they
else
make
you
like
want
a
to
good
say?"
point. Yeah.
And they'll have like some beautiful, like wise words or
I
something.
mean,
But
doesn't this guy say something? Because unless I'm remembering wrong, but doesn't this guy say something along the lines of like, because he does address the fact that historically there's been a lot of racism from white people to black people, um, and he does address this with just a quick note of that doesn't mean that you can just be an asshole to any white person
yeah,
as a black person. Like
Eh,
that doesn't mean that that's suddenly okay.
yeah. And then I can't really remember if we touched on this with the last one, but like John Keo's line of questioning is really weird to me. Just
Hmm.
because he keeps like being like, "Isn't it's almost like it's so weird that like interracial couples like are happening more and more, right? Like we need to get used to that kind of thing. When like it's no, I think what's more surprising is that people are this blatantly racist
Right.
in
Yeah.
public
Like
in a
yeah.
professional
That
setting.
yeah. That's way weirder
Yeah.
than how interracial couples might be more common, which they might be. I don't know. I don't have the numbers. I don't particularly care.
Yeah.
Like people like date whoever you fall in love with. Like that's all that matters, right? Like I think so.
Yeah.
But like yeah, that's true. Like that's especially in like the first scenario where he has that really weird line of questioning where it's like that's not really what the situation, like that's kind of how the situation like starts, but that's not really what it's about. Like it's not really about the fact that this is an interracial couple. It's more about the fact that here a person is being attacked because of their race
Yeah.
by a person of a different race, and that's
Yeah.
not cool.
Like, the couple is the least of it. The only reason that them being interracial is it's like, why is this person of one race in this room with people of predominantly another race, really?
Yeah, that's more what the situation is than anything else, honestly.
Yeah, because aside from like one comment in each scenario about like having mixed children, it really doesn't play a part at all. The
Yeah, the
couple
fact that it's
part.
the couple part doesn't really play into it, which again makes it really weird. And again, I know that it's for the program. It makes it really weird that the boyfriend doesn't say anything.
Yeah, it really is. Like, even like if he just said something to his girlfriend.
Yeah, just
Even just
even if
like
he
a
just
simple
comforts
like,
her, like don't listen
yeah.
to. Like
Like
they don't like the boyfriend doesn't at the same time, again, the problem with that is if they have him do that, then that means that other people are probably more inclined to be like, oh, it's being handled, I don't have to get involved
yeah, that's
anymore.
true. Yeah, so they
So that's
really
why
have no
they
choice but to make this boyfriend look like an awful boyfriend.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so final reaction that we get in this
Oh,
clip
and I
is,
love this one, except for a little bit at the end. We'll get to that, but I love
yeah,
this one. Generally, I love this one.
she is the perfect person to be in this room. I don't remember exactly what they said, but she is like a human
Like,
resources and diversity trainer.
yeah, yeah.
Um, which is like, this is literally her job. This is a professional setting, diversity, human. She's
Yeah.
resourceful.
Like this is what she's trained for. This is what she's good at. This is
Mhm.
her job. This
Yeah.
is what she do professionally.
And so she pretty immediately, like, she starts talking with the hairdresser, and she,
I just like I like how it starts with just with just hairdresser being like, "Oh, you're dating a black girl, like, or sorry, a white girl," like, says that in just this really like, "Oh, how could you?" kind of tone,
yeah.
and this woman's just immediately like, "What?" Just like she can't believe what she's hearing.
And then, yeah. Which I do like a lot. What would you do? They're very good. I mean, they have cameras everywhere, so I should hope so. But they're very good at catching like people's reactions, like at the perfect moment when they're making that face. It's like, yep, that's
The
me.
face of realization of, "Oh, I'm actually hearing this. I'm actually in this room, and things are being said."
I think being on What Would You Do is such a fascinating thing. Like, you woke up that morning thinking your day was gonna go one way. I'm gonna go to work, whatever. Then I'm gonna go get my hair done. Now
I'm gonna
you're
go grab a
here.
bite to eat, and now I'm here.
Yeah. Now this is my life now. Oh, okay. So she starts talking to Rachel, and she's basically just trying to like get immediately just trying to get to the root of the racism.
Yeah, cause first thing she does is she's like, "Well, I'm gay. Do you have a problem with that? Like, is it just race you have a problem with, or is it also sexuality?" To
Mm-hmm.
which Rachel is like, "No, I don't have anything against gay people."
Yeah.
But but apparently she does have something against a black man dating a white woman.
And her reason for that was interesting because, like, again, like, I've heard that too. And she's like, I don't like to see that because it just teaches young black girls that they aren't enough. Which I have heard. It is like a thing. But then she's like, I understand that you like how you feel, but like it's up to us to make those little girls feel like they are enough. It's not on him or her. Um
Right, these are just basically saying these are just two people who have found love, and it's not on them how other people might mistreat these little black girls or whatever. Like,
yeah.
it's
Like,
not like he is not purposely like being mean to black girls by dating a white woman, and she is not like taking like maliciously taking away like a dating opportunity from these little black girls. Like No, which sounds really weird, honestly.
This whole
like,
video, I think. Oh my gosh, we said that phrase. This is so weird to say like 10 times because it's
Yeah,
so.
like I keep saying things where I'm like, I actually said those words. What? But they make sense in context, but if you were to take them out of context, like what?
This is the video where all the blackmail comes.
Oh no.
Don't
And I already
please.
have I've already said so many weird things on the internet. Like there's already plenty of blackmail material out there.
Yeah, oh gosh. One day there'll be a supercut. And it's just actually this video in its entirety.
It's not even a supercut, it's just a re-upload.
Yeah, but it says supercut. The next thing, I think Rachel says, like, oh, well, that's just what my mother taught me. And then she very, like, politely says, like, and you haven't done everything your mother's told you. Like, which is true. Like, you don't do, like, every single thing that your parents tell you to do. So, like, maybe this is one of those things that you don't need to continue.
Right.
Just because your mother said it.
Mm-hmm.
Which, it was also just weird. At that point, I realized, like, I almost forgot for a second. Rachel is an actress.
Yeah, Rachel is not actually, like, because I believe it's actually like the reaction before this, maybe, or maybe it is this reaction where they point out that no, actually Rachel is herself, like in real life, in an interracial relationship. She has a white boyfriend.
Yeah. But it was just interesting at this point because she's like, you know, to this woman, she just thinks she's helping this person have a better view or at least handle her emotions in public a little better. You know, she's like, but like, and she's kind of getting a breakthrough. Like, Rachel's like, I never thought of it like that. Like, my mother, like, all this, like, serious stuff that I had to remind myself, like, this isn't real. I forgot.
Yeah, the Rachel we're seeing is not the real Rachel. Rachel's just acting right now.
Yeah.
Like, she's doing a good job. She's a good actress.
Yeah, this is really, like, I was immersed into the scene.
Which is a weird thing to say when you're watching What Would You Do?
Yeah, because that's really not usually the case. I
guess we found the one good episode or the one good clip.
Yeah. We just need more Rachel, I guess, is the moral.
Yeah, I mean, even though in the first one she wasn't all that active, considering, she wasn't the aggressor or anything in that one. But in the second one, like, oh man, she can act.
Yeah. And I will give props to the other hairdresser, although I don't know her name. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, no, she also a very good actress. Like, she also delivered her lines, like, very well. Like, that's what made them impactful as well. It's not just what she said, but also the way the actress said the words. Like, it's like, oh wow, that's like, that is the like that is the intonation. Like, she got in the headspace and probably then wanted to promptly get out of that headspace ASAP.
Yeah, like,
because that's not a good headspace to be in.
I'll be frank. What Would You Do is not for method actors.
No, please don't get too deep in those roles. Those roles are awful. Those are awful people.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that. But then after I think that's it for my thing. What is the one thing that you didn't like about what she? Right,
because that's after the reveal. After the reveal, they reveal to this woman from HR that that it's What Would You Do, and then John's there, and John's like, hello, and one thing she then does that I don't like is this sensitivity coach person, trainer, whatever. She like has Rachel and the other actress like stand next to each other, and then she says, "'Cause what is the difference?" And that, for me, kind of plays into the whole color blindness thing.
Yeah, which I think when we were talking about it, I don't think we really figured out how to really put into words what our feelings on that are.
Yeah,
like succinctly. But like, yeah, it's just because like, but one thing that you did say, that I think we can all agree with is like it is okay to acknowledge differences without being racist, like
right.
or
Like you you
bigoted.
you
Yeah.
you you can acknowledge differences between people
Mm,
without making it like bigotry. Like we can acknowledge the fact, like for example, you and I, Zax, we can acknowledge that the two of us have different sexualities, different gender identities, and we're of different races, different
yeah,
ethnicities.
and
And we
like
can acknowledge the fact that we're different in these ways without being awful to each
yeah,
other or or saying awful things about each other, because people are different, and it's one of those things of, celebrate the differences, because you can, because a lot of like who you are and how you grew up and what kind of groups you belong to informs a lot of how you see the world. And because we all see the world a bit differently, we can, we have a different viewpoint on things. That means that we can get to different places, I guess. Like the whole idea is, if you try to aggressively deny that there are differences, then you can't help each other grow with, using those things where you're different. Like, again, not really great at putting this succinctly, so I hope people are getting what I'm trying to put down here.
yeah. I hope hopefully we can all pick it up because I think we're all basically with you. I am at least.
Well, I'm glad.
I won't speak for the rest of the world. That's not my place.
No, that's fair. I wouldn't either. Like,
But I think one last thing I'll mention that I forgot, I kind of remembered that this is one thing when she's still just helping Rachel, is just how professional she is that she has an acronym, which is HUGS.
I love the acronym. Yeah, HUGS. HUGS.
Helping us grow spiritually. And like the way she said it, I was like, "You've done seminars, haven't you,
You
Miss
have
Lady?"
said this so many times in your life. Probably in the past few months, you've said this plenty of times. Because that sounds just like a thing you would. Like, that sounds like a thing. Like, you probably thought of that and you're probably really proud of it. Because
It's
that's how you sound.
good. I'm not gonna knock it. It's a good, like.
No, I like it. I like it. It's just
She
very clear that, okay, she is from human resources. She is a sensitivity trader. Like
she
that.
whipped that out. Like she was just waiting for the opportunity to bring that in.
She was waiting for an opportunity for hugs.
And she found it.
She found it.
All right. Well, I guess that's all we have to say this time. But leave a comment if you want us to like do more. What would you do? If you have like video
Some suggestions for which one you want us to look at. One final thing I want to say, by the way, while we have been recording this, I've been staring at a picture of John Quiones the entire time.
Oh my gosh, John Quiones.
I don't know why. He's just on my screen and I'm just looking at him.
He's got that kind of face where you just like can kind of just get lost in him. He has a very like I think because he's like a news host or anchor and like he always like portrays this like really passionate, warm-hearted demeanor. It's just like really seems easy to just kind of get lost in him.
Right.
Whatever that means.
He just has a likable face, I guess.
Yeah, looks very kind. So
and then he asks you questions to shame you.
Yeah, it is funny. I almost thinking about how warm and lovely he is. I forgot about that. I have bones to pick with him still.
You almost got tricked.
Yeah, I almost got lulled into that false sense of security. I'm not having it, Johnny.
I've got my eyes on you, John.
Yeah, I'm not gonna fall for this. Okay, well, on that note, I had fun. Thank
As
you,
did I.
Jelle, for what would you doing with it with me.
No problem, Zach. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you guys for listening. And remember to join our Discord. The link is in the bio. And remember to comment, like, and subscribe because we all need friends.